Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review of the Food Service Weekly Report, which we will all be getting every week. I'm just going to go over some key points and features and some information that you'll be able to glean out of this report, and also why it's so necessary for the operations of our food service areas within our operations. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the whole report here. I'm going to go through a brief overview on each one. You will each be getting this report in its entirety, so you can look and see how you compare to other stores, see where there's areas of opportunity within your store and your operations, and kind of start to brainstorm some ideas as to how we can become stronger operationally. So I'm just going to take a bit of time here to go just over the whole thing, kind of break it down into its different parts and the uses that we can find within this report. Okay, so everyone's going to get this, and it breaks down. If we just scroll down here, I'm going to try and do it not too quickly so that it scans everyone's eyes. But if you're going to look there, it has all the different locations. Now, within these locations, it has areas for a bunch of different things like sales, labor. It also breaks down into our costs of goods and then our gross margin. We'll talk about that at the end. Now, when we talk about our P&Ls as well and how we're going to go through those and find areas of opportunity for improving our operations, our P&L reports come out at the end of each period. As opposed to this report, which is done weekly, we can tighten up things as we kind of move forward, because once we get the P&L, that whole period's already passed. It's hard to tighten up within that. So the whole idea of this report and the information we take from it is to be able to find, again, areas of opportunity for improvement in our operations that we can use to affect our P&L, our profit and loss report, in a positive way. So let's start in the sales area here. So we're just going to look at these different stores. So each week you're going to see your current sales. You're going to see the previous week's sales. You're going to see what your WOW, or your week-over-week percentage is. So that's going to show whether or not your sales are up or down week after week. If a previous year's sales is applicable, the same will apply there. And then you'll also have the year-over-year percentage as well to see whether our sales are increasing year-over-year or if they're decreasing. So why is this important? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. It allows us to help notice trends quicker in terms of seasonality of the business, in terms of which then helps with our scheduling and our ordering, everything. All these information in terms of sales goes hand in hand on all the things that we're going to be trying to tighten up within the operations. So the first thing that I would do is if we look down through all of our different locations from this past week, we see some of them are in yellow or orange, depending on how you want to see that, and some are in green. So if we look here and I say, okay, well, and nobody's being picked out here. This is just for informational purposes. And again, the reality is the data is the data. So I look at Starbucks. I see Starbucks sales are down 1.6% almost week over week. So I'm like, okay, well, sales are down. So what can we take from that? So then as an operator and as a manager within your location, you want to start asking yourselves the questions. Okay, well, why is it down? Was it a weather issue? Was it product availability? Was it staffing issues? Whatever the reason being, we want to be able to assess why our sales are decreasing week over week. Recognizing where they're up. So that's great. We do see some growth there. And then, so let's take an opportunity to look at Mac to Quack. So Mac to Quack this past week, the Robin sales have increased. The Pizza Shack sales were down. So why were the Pizza Shack sales down? So as an operator and as a manager and your supervisors, you want to be asking these questions to see where the issues or where the opportunities lie. So is it that, the people who would normally be getting some Pizza Shack are getting Robin's instead, and there really isn't as much growth? Because if we look at that location, it is actually up 1.23% week over week. Or is there something else coming into play there? Like, for example, for a Pizza Shack, are we selling out of slices too early? Are we not providing the product that during the peak times that we need to have? If it's Robin's and your sales are down, are we looking at Product availability. Are we not baking enough? Are we baking too much and the product's not fresh? All these things come into play. So when you look at your sales, it's really important not to just look at what it is, but also where are we going? Where are we? And the reasons why. It could be seasonality, but it could be things within our operations that we really want to kind of dial in and focus on. And over the next number of weeks and months, we're going to be doing that together. And as we've got our new general manager in our Denny's location, and a lot of the other areas of things we're working on are kind of coming to fruition, I'm going to be able to spend a lot more time in the locations with you all to kind of help assess where we could find areas of growth within your operations. So again, your sales are super important. When it comes to cost of sales, when it comes to labor, sales are the cure-all for so many of our ills. Because we really only have certain things we can absolutely control, like our controllable cost of goods, so our costs of goods and our labor. But again, we can affect sales in a lot of ways, whether it be through our cost of goods, if we're over-portioning, under-portioning, our labor, are we too high, are we too low, especially. So all these things come into play. So our sales are really, top-line sales are so important. So we really want to be able to focus on this, understand the reasons why we're having our week-over-week differences and why we're having our year-over-year differences, and also understanding that. So let's look at Zealand, for example. Like I look at last year's sales in Pizza Shack, oh my God, we're down 39.22%. However, we also did at this time during the year last year, we were still doing the in-school pizza program because the school's cafeteria wasn't open, so that's dramatically going to decrease our sales. So we understand that, but we also are looking at a week-over-week sales, so what are the reasonings there? Is it because of product availability, which we've been discussing in terms of some of the locations? But again, we need to kind of recognize why there are these changes and what we can do as managers and operators to improve these numbers here. Because again, sales, top-line sales, are the basis of all these other numbers. So then we're going to look into our labor area. So this is going to break down your labor dollars for the week. So what I do for here is I look at your approved hours in PayWorks for the week. So you need to make sure that every week that your hours are approved on time so that we can look at this amount. I then times that by 1.12, which then brings those dollar values up to including CPP, EI, and vacation pay, which would all either be paid out immediately or accrued. Either way, those factors need to be all considered when we talk about our labor. So when you're looking at your labor hours, it's not just about your hours that you're using, but actually the dollar values that are assessed to that. So let's say, for example, you have somebody who's getting paid $15.30. Well, in actuality, they're $15.30 in terms of their gross pay, but then in terms of what we as a company are paying is more or less 12% on top of that as well, to include those employment insurance benefits, the Canadian pension plan benefits, as well as the vacation pay that, again, would either be paid out immediately or accrued, depending, but either way, those funds need to be available. So when it comes to our labor percentages and our goals, okay, so how do we come up with our goals? Well, our goals are decided kind of by discussing within our own company, but also eliciting the expertise and the experience of our brands that we are supporting, and in terms of different operators and locations that they have as well. So again, these numbers for these goals, none of these are just arbitrarily pulled out of the air. These are all based on industry standards, what we should be doing within our operations, and making our scheduling based on that. So let's take a look here. So if we look here at some of these, the names aren't so much important for the specifics of this video, but we will be going through them individually, store by store, together as your each own store. So if we look here, we see that, okay, well, our labor should be around 27.5%. We're actually running 29.52. So we have a difference of 2.02%. Now, when I think 2.02%, that doesn't really sound like a whole lot of anything, because it's just 2%. What's 2%? 2% is nothing. But when we look at what that translates to into our sales and our actual costs, that 2% of sales is actually $436.81. For this location here, a difference is 2.56%, which is $124.65. Now, again, these don't sound like a whole lot, but let's just take, for example, that $436.81, because again, this is free a year. So if we times that by over the course of the year, that's $22,714.12. So again, just that 2%, it sounds really small. I understand that. But when we look at the compound effect that will have in the operations over the course of the year, again, that's $22,714. So if I was to look down at a place like here, so here I look at $524 or $525 times 52, that's $27,000. So let's take a look at an example here. If it was like $1,600, $1,200. So let's look at what we have going on here. So that's Woodstock. And so we have some operation things that we're looking at there in terms of our Starbucks, because we're kind of adjusting. But again, we're moving towards where we need to be in these. So the big thing is that we really need to look and assess what our differences are, where our areas of opportunity within our labor each and every week. So again, you're going to have approved hours each and every week. You're going to have approved hours, and then you're going to put it in. Again, reminder, very important that your food service schedules need to be in the system by Thursday evening. Today is Friday. I'll be looking at, we do want schedules posted for all locations by Friday evening. So to have them in by Thursday allows us opportunity to review, make any suggestions for changes that need to be made. But again, the easiest way to make this work is just to schedule what you need to schedule, because you're going to have to anyways. This is a non-negotiable factor of how we run our operations. We have our approved budgeted hours, you're going to have your scheduled hours, and by the time that week ends, they are going to be matching. So when we look at this report, I see that there are certain stores. Okay, so if I scroll back over, Harvey Pizza Shack is actually just a little under, so they don't have to look at removing any hours. If I look at the pros hours, we have 56 hours that we have to trim there. If I look at between Denny's and the ISP, they both come in under budget, which is great. And then we could work because they're sharing a little bit of labor. If I look in terms of Mac to Quack, so Mac to Quack's only got 15 hours of labor that they have to trim off. But then as we go down, we look, there's like some places have like 74, some places have 28. So really, if we look at between all of our locations, we have a total of 185 hours that we need to trim off of this current schedule. It just has to happen. There's no other way around it. So if we were to look at, say, this cost here, so this is last week, for example. So last week we overpaid, and there's no other way of phrasing it, but it really is just overpaid, $3,559.95. And again, that's for a week. So if we times that by 52, that is over the course of a year, just based on this, $185,117.40. Almost just shy of $200,000. Now, when we think, it's only 2%, it's only 0.55%, all of these numbers, all of these what start out as smaller numbers become large numbers every single time. So I cannot reiterate more how important it is to schedule your actual schedule based on your approved. And again, moving forward, it's very important for everyone to understand that these will match. We've taken some time to kind of allow people to kind of get used to the hours of expectation, everything like that. So we need to now make it where a firm understanding. So it's abundantly clear to each and every one of you how important this is. Exceptions will not be made. There will be no tolerance of schedules being out of budget. Now, with that being said, if there's exceptional circumstances like training periods, things that need to be accounted for, those things can be discussed as an individual conversation before the schedule gets posted, before schedules get approved. Your schedule is not to be posted until it is approved by myself or Robert in either situation, so that we have an understanding of where we are with the hours. Because now you're all going to have to, for those of you who are looking at your hours in either orange, yellow, or red, you have to go back at your schedule and trim these hours. Some of you I've already discussed this with, both the Starbucks locations I've discussed with in terms of their current schedules. So those are things that have been addressed. Again, still have to recognize it as a adjustment needed, but we have discussed those, so that's fine. But any other store that is showing up in red on your report, on this report when you get it, those hours need, or in yellow or orange, those hours need to be trimmed. So then we look on to our cost of goods. So a few of you are working on getting your reports better, getting the reports more accurate. I know, for example, that LaPro, I'm working with Waleed there in terms of their report, and working with Shediac Road as well, trying to get that together so that we can get, because again, if we don't understand our cost, if we're not having the information handy, we're not able to do that. And we're not able to run our locations effectively. But again, if we look, so I'm just going to take Harvey, for example. Not picking on you, Brian, but I mean, it really is what it is, and it's just here what we see. So our cost of sales coming out of Harvey's Pizza Shack, and again, this is just an example, because we do have challenges in almost all of our locations, food cost-wise. So our theoretical is 39%. We're running an actual just under 45%. So 6% doesn't sound like a lot, but again, when we translate that into dollars, that's $291.56. So if we were to take that, again, and not to sound bad, but I'm just talking like this as I'm using my calculator, times 52. So again, that's just over $15,000 a year, just missing. So it's either being taken, it's being eaten, it's being thrown out, overportioned, who knows? So again, we need to not only rectify these things, but address the areas that need improvement. So are we portioning? Is product walking out the door one way or another? Are we giving it to staff? Are staff taking it? Are they wasting a lot? All of these things need to come into play. Because again, if I look at even our cost of sales on our ISP area, okay, so where is the issue there? Is it a count issue? Is it a inventory valuation issue? Again, so every week when you're inputting, and this is another thing as well, and I'm going to address this again in another video, but your cost of sales in terms of your inventory count sheets, every week you can't just put in your amounts and assume that your numbers are going to be correct. You need to go into your look at your invoices as you're inputting them, making sure that the spreadsheet that you're using for your inventory counts, that the pricing on there, the case pricing, matches what the most up-to-date pricing that you have. Any variance of that is not going to be accurate. So I mean, we could be looking at this saying, "Oh my God, we're short $583 this week," but maybe we're not. Maybe it's just that the valuation is incorrect. But we want to make sure that our valuation is key because, again, you're all working very hard. You're all spending a lot of time trying to run your different parts of the operation. None of us need to be chasing things in the wrong place. So we want to make sure that our sheets are up to date, that our costing is always accurate for your location, and that we're looking at the right information. So we're not wasting our time trying to find something in one area where it could be another. So again, this is why portioning, this is why cost control is all super, very important. Uh, so it's very crucial for you to look at these and kind of analyze where that is. It's not just about compiling the information. It's like, what are we doing with this information? We all have expectations. Our expectations for uh, our operations need to match what our theoreticals are. These are all on the sheets that you guys have every week for your reporting. We all should be well aware. If you're not, we can go sit down and go through that. So again, we look at our gross margins then. And the gross margins is basically the sales minus our cost of labor minus our cost of goods. But in this, so again, if we don't have any inventory, accurate inventory, we're not going to have a correct gross margin, which is very important. But if we take, for example, an area like Harvey, we're just going to look here, and their gross margin for the week was just under $1,100. Now you're going to go, wow, a 22% profit, almost 22.5% profit. That's great. However, we also need to understand that these numbers of gross are exactly that. They don't take into consideration insurance, rent, utilities, water, licensing. Any of those things are not POS. Any of those things are not included in there. So again, and for those of you who have been with us since last year, you remember the whole thing I said, well, a nickel here, a dollar there, and it all comes down. So we don't really necessarily want to get too caught up in looking at our gross margins and saying, oh, those look really good, because although they can be accurate, mainly when we look at our actual P&L is where you'll have a better idea of where you sit in terms of the profitability of your store. So the big things that we need to glean out of this report each week are, for our sales, where are we? Why are we? So in other words, why are our sales the way they are? Are they increasing? Are they declining? If they're increasing, why are they increasing? What are we doing right? Let's not forget to recognize what we're doing great. But any area of where there's things that are going down, either week over week or year over year, why are these happening? We need to start asking ourselves these questions. And in terms of finding solutions for those things, that's where we can work together. We can collaborate as a company, as managers, and try and work together to figure out what it is. If there's suggestions that we need to do, things that we need to put into place, operational things that we need to change, it's very important. Because again, sales will be the cure for so many of our questions and areas. The next, again, I'm actually going to, is the labor. Again, the new sheet really keeps it simple. Tells you exactly how many hours you're approved for, and how many hours you can schedule. And then how many hours you actually schedule. These need to match. We need to be, I need to be able to make that absolutely abundantly clear. I want to sound as positive and as friendly as I can in this, but we need to understand that this is a non-negotiable factor of our operations. Your actual scheduled hours need to match your approved hours. And if you need help in making that happen, we can discuss. You can obviously approach me. That's what we're here for. But one way or another, we need to get to where these are. And unfortunately, we don't want to be in a situation where Robert or myself need to go into schedules and making arbitrary changes, because you're not going to have necessarily the people or the hours where you need them. So we need to work together. But again, it's non-negotiable. Like these are based on budget. These are based on just so we can survive as a company to be able to do that. So it's very important to look at your dollars, to look at your approvals, to look at all these things in terms of labor. I cannot be more. I don't know how to explain it even more, but it's very important, and there cannot be any variance on this. So again, when we look at these things, have it done by the time you're schedule is approved. Again, it's not going to be approved. Schedules should not be approved until they are and published. Sorry, I guess would be the better word for you guys. You should not be publishing your schedules until you have the approval for myself or Robert in terms of any of the stores that are addressed in this. For the C-store side of things, I'm not sure. I know there's areas of opportunity in some of those stores, but here, for the food service side of things, every week, for all of you, I need to know and approve your schedules before they get published. That is a non-negotiable factor. And again, schedules need to be inputted into PayWorks by Thursday so that they can be addressed. Because again, as much as on your time off, everyone has time off, we also want to make sure we're getting our schedules out to our staff in time. Some stores are posting schedules on a Tuesday night, Monday night, Sunday. That's not acceptable from our expectations, and I think from our staff's expectations as well. People need to be able to plan their lives, schedule ahead, so we need to do that. So again, let's make sure that we are keeping our schedules within our approved budgets and keeping, we're going to have to do that. You're going to have to change it anyways, is the easiest way I could say it. So why not just do it within that amount the first time? Might be a little bit tougher on your staff. They might get a bit of pushback, but again, it is the reality of what it is. In terms of our cost of goods, again, very important. We need to, any times that we're looking at these and we're seeing that we are missing money, because that's really what it is. It's missing money one way or another, either through overportioning, through waste, all those areas. So it's very important that we're looking at these things. So I will be asking stores that are having issues, why are we having these variances? What are we doing to work on that? What areas of opportunity are we finding to improve our operations? For all this information isn't just I guess the easiest way to say it is that a report like this is less about where we are, but also where we need to be. So it's a springboard for us to be able to look at what we need to do to improve our operations and become financially stable for our P&Ls to make all of our locations profitable. Because you're all doing great jobs in so many ways. There's definitely areas of opportunity in a lot of the different operations, but we all need to improve upon how we're executing these things. And again, if there's areas where, I don't just expect you to look at it and be like, oh, well, I just got to fix it. Well, yes, we do, but how do we do that? So if you're having questions about how you're scheduling, if your scheduled hours are, I don't know how to schedule this without it, we can go through that. I'm going to put another thing up here again today in regards to that. So it's not just about recognizing and putting all the onus on you as managers to improve these operations. We will work together to make that happen. But the onus is on you as managers to be working towards improving operations, asking for guidance where you need it, recognizing areas where you might need help, and asking us for it. And we will do whatever we can to help you. So again, I do appreciate all your time. It's very important. I will be sending out this report to all of you, along with some comments about your individual locations. This will be happening every week. And again, first and foremost, all of you, in terms of your scheduling, unless we've had discussions already, in terms of your store specific, any area, any stores that are showing as a red or an orange or a yellow for this current week schedule needs to make adjustments to those schedules or discuss with me the particulars of what is happening, and we will go through and make adjustments together. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.